let's go to our next point. What's our next thing we want to focus on?
Great. So when should a founder formalize communication standards and guidelines with the team?
In short, as soon as possible.
Yeah.
It's really, really important that you set the tone very early and be professional. When you as the founder, co-founders, founding team set that professionalism, it creates, it sort of trickles down to the employees, right? That, gossip is not accepted. We communicate on, via email, or if text message is okay, add that into it. Make sure people know the channels that they can use to communicate with you. It's incredibly important to set that process really, really early, because just like, you're doing co-founder alignment, this is team alignment too. You need to be aligned with your team moving forward, and always, always be professional. It's so easy in these early startups to, you want to blow some steam off because you're working really hard. And so you all go out and, party and drink together. And that just really doesn't it doesn't set a great stage for professional communication in the office when you do those kinds of things.
Yeah. And a lot of times you're starting it with two of your friends from college or something like that. And you're not professional because you were in a fraternity or sorority together and you did the opposite of being professional. Now you're in an office and maybe you've taken money from people. And if you act like you're still in your sorority or fraternity or your, apartment or something like that, that's going to trickle down, and that unprofessionalism is going to just spread. And that can lead to all kinds of bad situations. That's why I advise companies today, like maybe not happy hours, maybe have lunch as a team, and de-emphasizing alcohol at the workplace. I think is something that has become sort of the standard here. Some people might think something's lost, but you also don't need to be the social life of the party as the founder. Sometimes the founders think they have to be the ones who are throwing the party, et cetera. Maybe not. Maybe if your team wants to go out, that's okay, but you don't have to be out at every social event. What's our next bullet point here? It's kind of funny.
Yeah, so in that same vein of being professional, sort of not in front of the kids. So as co-founders and founding team members, you want to, specifically co-founders, if you have disagreements, that's okay. You're building this company together. Neither of you have likely never done it before, and you're going to have some wrinkles. But it's really important that you don't take those disagreements on the, startup floor, that you're taking those behind closed doors and hashing everything out so that you can go to the team as a united front.
Yeah.
So that they don't feel like there's some kind of breakdown, not only in communication, but, oh my gosh, the world is ending. These co-founders are fighting all of the time. So it's important to maintain that professionalism and, having resolutions to your conflicts not in front of your team.
Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
Ultimately, when, with your early employees, oftentimes they're taking these risks and making these sacrifices for you as the founders, and they're counting on you. And it's not necessarily always about the startup idea. It could be that you have recruited people from your past that have seen you work and want to be on your team. And so if that breaks down, then essentially what's left? In a lot of cases.
And some things are fine to have a debate about. You could even have a healthy charge debate about a product. But I would say you really have to start thinking about which topics might create a sense of panic in the team. So you've spent all this time to build a team of 12 people, and now you're having a blowout fight over if you're going to raise money or not raise money, if you're going to lay people off, if you're going to fire somebody. Like, this is the kind of stuff that should not occur in front of the team. If you want to have a structured discussion about your go-to-market strategy, and are you going to do paid ads or content marketing, or how you're going to recruit people, those are fine debates to have. What I find people sometimes do, and this again goes back to the first bullet point we have here about being professionals, they may debate something in front of everybody that just scars them. And they just think, oh, now I don't have a sense of security here. If that person can be fired on the spot, I guess that means I could be fired on the spot. Or if they're arguing over if the company should shut down, their consumer product and go B2B, like, wait a second. I bought into a mission, as we said earlier, and having a alignment mission that was the opposite. Wait, this place is chaos. And I think the fighting in front of the kids can create chaos, and then make it hard for people to focus on work. So I think it's a very important point. What's our next one?
To over communicate, especially as it relates to your mission, your goals, and your roles in the company. You want to make sure that everyone knows what they are working towards. And the way they do that is you over communicate the mission.
Yep.
And just as sort of an aside, when I first started at Launch, I was asked what the mission was. I was probably a week in.
Yeah.
And I said, inspiring innovation and supporting founders.
Yeah.
And I was told, that's the incorrect order.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really important. I was only a couple of days in and it was already, it rang true. And it's really important. Everything we do supports that mission.
Support founders, inspire innovation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you think about it, we came up with that from the conference and then also investing. And it's actually really served us because when we look at a course like this that we're doing here, it's to support founders. Yeah, it might inspire some innovation, but this part is really about supporting founders. And goals are different than missions. Goals are, hey, this is what we want to get done this week, this month, this year, this quarter. The mission is something that maybe doesn't change for the life of the company. Or if it did, it would be a big discussion.
But those goals support that mission, right? Everything's going towards that. So when you're over communicating the mission and then everybody knows what that is, everyone's bought in, then over communicating the goals and tracking people, which we'll get into a little bit later, but tracking people against those goals as well. And then important within those goals is what your role is. You know exactly what your responsibility is. So everyone is on the same page. There's not this misalignment, and you're able to service the mission more successfully.
Yeah, the big problem is sometimes you set a goal and two people are responsible for it and the ball falls right between them. Like outfielders in a baseball game, they don't know who's actually responsible. And that's why it's very clear to just put somebody responsible. I also like to tell people what the goals are. And then when they report back on what percentage of the way you are to hitting that goal, or what goals do you have that you don't feel you're going to hit, and what's your strategy for maybe changing the goal or trying another strategy to hit that goal. And over communicating is critical. People send things in an email, nobody reads email. People say things in a meeting, people are distracted. If you're the manager, you have to repeat the mission and the goals at least 10 times if you want half the people to remember it.
Yeah. And to that point, different methods of communication as well.
Yeah. I mean, email is a good place to put it. Asana, if you're using that, or some other tracker, a Trello board, whatever it is. But boy, do you have to repeat it. And this is something that people miss in terms of management all the time. They say, well, I said this. And it's like, when did you say that? It's like, people are busy and distracted. They've got a million things. Okay, our final point seems obvious, but it's obviously important.
Yeah, so being transparent. So this, it aligns with over communicating, but especially at an early stage, your early employees likely have some kind of stock option in your company. So they're stakeholders. It's really, really important to be transparent with your employees. I mean, without arguing in front of the kids, that, what's going on within the company, what the high level, not only what the high level goals are, but what the high level challenges are.
Yeah.
So that everyone can be, focusing on solutions together.
Yeah.
Instead of, the co-founder sort of toiling away.
These two things, Sam, not in front of the kids and be transparent, these seem like opposites. How would you reconcile this? Give me a couple examples of things that you'd say, you know what, if the three of us were co-founders in this new company, we would want to take on the side and have a discussion privately versus things that we want to be transparent about.
Yeah, two that go hand in hand. The first one that comes to mind is, so as a founder, in the beginning, you may have issues with payroll or making payroll. And so you'll want to discuss as a team, as a co-founding team, what to do with that. So it's either, you have a couple options. And so, in many cases, you can either, maybe communicate with your employees like, hey, we need to delay payroll. Hey, we need you to skip this payroll. So evaluating, the bigger picture, all of that, and making a decision together. And then at that point, you need to decide, okay, what do we communicate with the team? How far do we take it? So is it like, hey, this round
so you're specifically talking about a shutdown kind of situation. Hey, if you're running out of money and you may need to do a layoff.
Well, this would be very,
shutdown.
very early, but yeah. And that transparency would come just, when you're talking to your team, do you tell them everything? Do you tell them, hey, this investor check didn't come in, or it, fell through. So no, we can't, make these hires or do any of this. Or do you kind of keep it close to the chest and hope that you'll be able to figure it out between,
Where
between
do
the two of you?
fall on that one? Let's say the round is coming together, not coming together. What would you advise a founder to do? What have you done in the past?
So I this actually did happen to me, so I can tell you exactly what we did. So we tried to we were transparent, but we also let the team know that we were doing everything we possibly could to, to basically close the financial gap, the cash gap that we were experiencing, and gave them essentially a timeline for what that would look like. So, and gave them scenarios. So, hey, if these certain checks did come in on time, this would happen. If they didn't come in on time, this would happen.
So you had a plan A and a plan B.
Exactly, yeah.
Maybe even
And we
plan
set
C.
different timelines. So, if this check didn't come in by this time, then yeah, we may need you to skip payroll. And in that case, we would, help you and support you in finding your next role at a different company.
Yeah. That's where really it can get dicey when the company is in the last 3 months and it's a coin toss if it's going to work out or not. You're really obligated to be candid with people because it is their future. And boy, is it terrible when people come to work one day and there's no money left in the bank and they just let everybody go with no notice. I am a fan of giving people exactly, and I do this with Inside, hey, we raised $2.x million. We're burning 25 to 50 a month. And so that gives us 50 months of runway to 75 months of runway. Here's why we're investing that money every month. We could be break even right now, but we want to invest and grow another 20 newsletters. And here's the plan. And here's what we did in revenue the last 4 quarters. And here's what we want to do in the next 4 quarters. Here's how we're going to get there. So I love being transparent about that. I understand some people, maybe when you have 6 to 12 months, you don't want people to be scared and running for the door.
Right.
But you should be candid about it, I think, in this case. Hey, everybody. Last episode, I told you about this new incredible bed called 8 Sleep. It's called the Pod, and it helps you sleep better by dynamically cooling and heating your side of the bed or your spouse's. And then it sets a thermo alarm, so when you wake up, oh boy, now you can wake up and it'll get a little bit cooler and raise your heart rate and make you wake up naturally so you're super well rested. This is a Silicon Valley backed startup. It was started in New York, but they've got backers like Khosla Ventures, Y Combinator, and Azure Capital. And in Silicon Valley, you need that extra energy. You need that energy level for you to have the right mood and the right take charge attitude at your startup and be focused. It's the ultimate hack in optimizing your productivity. You got to get great sleep. So I just pre-ordered the bed, and you will get the sleep you deserve by heading to 8sleep.com/twist. That's right. Go to 8sleep.com/twist and supercharge your health and productivity, and you can try the product risk-free for 100 days. They'll take it back if you don't like it. 8sleep.com/twist. Get the sleep you deserve by heading over to 8sleep.com/twist. Again, it's 100 days. You got nothing to lose. And this is going to make you super, super efficient. Go ahead and enjoy the new pod from 8 Sleep.